The Giggle is a hard episode to talk about. It's absolutely packed with ideas, full of big action sequences, massive callbacks to the show's past, and setting up all sorts of possibilities for the future. So it's a bit of a mess, but a spectacular mess all the same. And it's likely to be the most memorable episode of the year, if not necessarily the best. The episode starts as it needs to go on, with a bunch of throwaway ideas that could easily have been expanded into entire stories. The idea of everyone in the world being infected with a virus that turns them all into self-righteous violent thugs is absolutely terrifying, although it's really only used in a couple of scenes. I guess if something like that happened in the real world, humanity would be wiped out in a matter of hours. Similarly, the creepy puppets, Dookie Bill and his family, could easily have sustained their own episode, but they only get a handful of scenes. And it was quite alarming to learn afterwards that the puppet is actually historically correct. So Unit come back quite early on in the episode, and it looks very much like they're setting up a spin-off, with an expensive new set, a big Avengers Tower-style skyscraper, and a whole bunch of characters who could be regulars. It did strike me that Unit is basically all female nowadays. I know they were all male back in the 70s, but two wrongs don't make a right. And they really should be aiming for an equal balance of male and female characters if they're going to spin them off. But I did like the fact that they just casually introduced the mysterious new alien called the Vlinks, who everybody just instantly accepts, and that's not suspicious at all. So joining the Unit ensemble, we have Bonnie Langford back as Mel. She was never one of my favourite companions back in the 80s. She had very little characterisation back then, and didn't do much other than scream. But she's a decent actor, and although she only has a few scenes here, she comes across a lot better than she did before, now that they've given her an actual character with a personality. And you can definitely see her being a regular in any Unit spin-off. Neil Patrick Harris as the Toymaker is clearly having a lot of fun in the role. His German accent is rather grating, presumably on purpose. He keeps it going a bit too long for my liking, but at least he's not pretending to be Chinese, like the previous Toymaker was. His best scene was probably when he invaded Unit HQ, which made him feel very like Q from Star Trek The Next Generation. You really got the sense of him being a godlike being, able to alter reality on a whim, and just casually snuffing out human lives like they were flies. His confrontations with David Tennant worked extremely well. The two actors really bounced off each other. But if anything, they were a bit too brief. I think a few more scenes of them together would definitely have helped the episode. Maybe the Toymaker should have been in all 3 episodes rather than just the one. So now we come to the bioregeneration. I had read some of the rumours going around the internet, so I wasn't entirely unprepared for what was going to happen. But it does seem a dangerous road to go down. All the previous Doctors had the good grace to just disappear and make way for the next one. There was never any question about who the official Doctor was, but now there is. You can't help thinking that it may have been imposed on them by Disney, so if Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor does badly in the ratings, they could always bring back David Tennant to take over. I guess the idea is to give David Tennant's Doctor a happy ending, although we already had that with Rose. Although it would have been one thing if they just left him there with Donna's family, perhaps to come back in a future Christmas special. But the fact that they've given him his own TARDIS does strongly imply that they will be bringing him back for his own spin-off show or movie. I mean, I'm not even sure how they would do a spin-off show. What would they even call it? Doctor Who 2? Doctor Who as well? But I guess a series of movies with Tennant and Tate, which you can make at the same time as you've got the younger Doctor and companion in the TV show, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I've certainly enjoyed having Tennant and Tate back, and if they came back again in the movie, I'd be right there. I just hope that there is some sort of end game in sight, some long-term plan that will leave you with just one Doctor travelling in one TARDIS. Because leaving it like this forever seems untenable, but we'll see what happens. Well, for now at least, the Doctor and Donna have been parked in their happy ending, and it looks like we'll be following the Jukebox Doctor for the foreseeable future. Is it racist to call him that? I honestly don't know. Ncuti Gatwa makes a strong first impression. There's none of the usual post-regeneration fugue. He just shows up fully formed, except for lack of a costume. He'll be a bit cold at Christmas if he's still just in his pants. He's a definite contrast to David Tennant, perhaps because Tennant was deliberately playing his Doctor as a bit worn out in this one. Gatwa's Doctor seems much more laid back, cool and self-possessed, and he should make for a strong lead going forwards. Of all the 3 60th anniversary specials, this one probably had the most references to the past, with the Toymaker coming back from the 60s, Mel coming back from the 80s, and everyone from Mavic Chen to the Gods of Ragnarok getting name-checked. The sequence where the Toymaker runs through all the Moffat-era companions and lists their fates is particularly effective. And it does fit in with the idea that the episode is basically a farewell to the whole New Who era that started in 2005. How much of a fresh start the new era will be remains to be seen. Overall, this was probably the least effective of the 3 specials for me. The first one had more emotional content, and the second one had the best standalone story. But this one felt more like the old RTD season finales, throwing a bunch of stuff on screen, lots of spectacle, but barely hanging together as a story. I guess this will probably be remembered the most for kicking off this new era of the 2 Doctors, and however that idea works out will probably determine whether or not this episode is regarded as a classic. I can certainly see it being just as controversial as The Timeless Child, if not more so. Well, thanks for watching. Next week I'll be back to the classic era with my review of Invasion of Time, and sometime over Christmas I'll have my review of The Church on Ruby Road. So subscribe if you want to be sure of seeing those, and I'll see you next time.